Welcome, friend. I'm so happy you're here to Strawberry Shift, where we study the wisdom of the heart. So remember, the strawberry symbolizes the zeal of God, which means enthusiasm for love. All of our answers are found within the heart. It's all about slowing down and going within the wisdom of the heart. But how do we do that? It's about cultivating that stillness. It's about cultivating being able to go inside and within. And so it's about the foundation is developing some sort of meditation practice. So this is why the first really phase of the Strawberry Shift framework is TREEPOSE. So TREEPOSE is about laying down the roots of what grounds us and centers us for going within, and especially during those turbulent times, and especially during those times that are inevitable. If you are a coach, a therapist, if you do work with people, then you know what I'm talking about, that it's inevitable. You're going to get a human being who is going to be extremely anxious, or who I just had last week, a client who had a panic attack. And, it was intense. Even though I have experience and even though I have a lot of time in the saddle with this, it was an intense session. It reminded me of how important this practice is. And it's unfortunately not talked about in our industry. We're not really set up to win. And so this is why I'm having this conversation with you. So I'm very grateful that you're here and you are someone who is valuing this conversation. So thank you for being here and listening. So this is part one of TREEPOSE. There's a lot out there on meditation. There's so much out there on meditation. And it's important that you know that there's not just one way to meditate. It's important that you know that there's lots of definitions of meditation. I'm going to share with you mine. I'm going to share with you my favorite way, and I'm going to share with you what's worked for me. And I'm giving you my huge disclaimer. If you don't like my path, you can find one that resonates with you. I mean, I've known of people who've done candlelight meditations, stargazing meditations. There's so many beautiful meditations, lots of guided meditations. I mean, it's the options for meditation are endless. I will give a plug to my future best friend. It's called Manifesting, and mentor Richard Rudd. He created an app called the Triple Flame app. Oh, it's so good. So good. So I highly recommend, if you are looking for an app, I highly recommend the Triple Flame app. Heart of Peace is one of my favorite. I think it's like a 14 or 15 minute meditation, and it's a very beautiful meditation. I was listening to that sometimes twice a day when I was going through a very difficult chapter of my life. So let's talk about meditation, and let's talk about what is meditation. I personally believe, and again, this is my belief. Now I'm going to share with you my take and my belief. I gave you the disclaimer. It's important that we develop this foundation. Whenever I am working with a coach who has hired me, so if you've paid me to mentor you and I ask you, are you meditating? And you say no, then I say, well, we got to change that, because I remember when I learned piano, I'm not making this up. Her last name was Fields. So I literally took piano lessons from Mrs. Fields. No, she did not give me cookies. She should have, right? But I remember Mrs. Fields was my piano teacher, and she could tell when I practiced. I think Mrs. Fields was a witch. Mrs. Fields, she could tell when I was practicing, and she could tell when I didn't practice. And I remember Mrs. Fields taught me at 7 years old, Mrs. Fields taught me a very powerful lesson. Thank you, Mrs. Fields. She said, Mandy, you are wasting your time and my time and your parents' money if you don't practice in between our sessions. I was kind of like, she's like this super sweet lady, but then, man, if you don't practice in between, she's like, whoop-sh. So, and she always knew when I practiced and didn't practice. And so I share that with my coaches. I say, if you don't meditate everything else that I teach you doesn't really even matter that much. Like, it's not going to stick. It's like, yeah, it can make a little difference here and there, but this is an inside job. And so all the knowledge and all the stuff that I'm going to share with you, nothing is going to make the impact if you don't start going inside, because this is about what Strawberry Shift is more of an unlearning. What I've created, what I got inspired to deliver to you, yes, it is a framework. And yes, I do have content to deliver, to you and for you, but it's very unique content. If you pay attention, it's content to help you unlearn. Because here's the truth. The truth is you already know this. That's actually the truth. That's actually what's so weird about it. The truth is you already know how to be there for someone else. You already know how to inspire someone else. And here's the trick. Now you might get a little cocky. You might be like, well, Mandy, if I already know, then I don't need you. I don't need this. I don't need to meditate. I don't know why I'm doing the two guns, but play with me here. I'm by myself doing this. I got to entertain myself to keep going for you. If you are not in a place where you can remain calm and centered, and if you are not in a place of where you can trust your own heart and listen to your own heart, and really, I'm talking full surrender, man, 100%, like trust, full surrender and trusting your heart 24/7. If you're not living your life that way, then we got some unlearning to do. I'm not that way, by the way. Like, hello, I'm still a student of this. I'm teaching and sharing what I know right now, and I have the teacher's hat on right now for you, but I'm still a student of this. So there it is. Now, when it comes to my meditation practice, I meditate 15 minutes in the morning and I meditate 15 minutes in the late afternoon, because I do the presence process. Michael Brown, baby, Michael Brown. So this is the Marines of meditation. It is. You want to do the best meditation ever. I feel like PSA for Michael Brown's The Meditation Process. This, seriously, I've recommended this book to so many people, but very few. I'm going to warn you. And this isn't like trying to hey, I bet you can't do it. This isn't like that. If you have never meditated before, I would probably start with the Triple Flame app. I would probably start with a guided meditation, to be honest. I would start with that. But if you're ready and you're like, Mandy, I'm in a place in my life where I'm ready to dive deep and I'm ready to make some changes. I'm ready to transform. I'm ready to be who I came here to be. I will warn you that you will go through a radical transformation, and this is not easy, and your ego will have tremendous resistance towards it. But I will tell you, so this is a 10-week self-study guided meditation. Oh, and there's just so much gold in this book. I'm going to share with you one of my favorite, there's just so much in here. I had it ready for you. One of my favorite things from this book to have you understand the power of, so he calls it the presence process, and he calls it accessing presence. We all have this presence within us. You could call it the presence, you could call it source, you could call it your heart. So in Strawberry Shift, we refer to it as our heart. So he calls it the presence. And I'm going to read from page 17 in the presence process. He's talking about what happens when you do the presence process. He says the presence process isn't about becoming something or somebody else. It's about remembering and experiencing what we already are. Neither is the presence process about changing the nature of what the stars may have marked on our foreheads, hands, and feet. Rather, it's about waking up to the fullest potential of each moment as it unfolds right now. Responding to life with presence instead of reacting to it as if something else were supposed to be happening. So I'm going to share something with you. I don't know how else to share with you the impact and the power of this than to be vulnerable and real with you about my own story, because I keep my clients, confidential. And even though I know I could change their names and all of that, I still hold their stories as private and sacred. So I'll share with you that because I've done the presence process, we all suffer from certain levels of denial. We have to in order to survive. We all do. And denial may not be the right word, but we all aren't aware of everything that's going on in our unconscious mind. I mean, it's impossible to know. That's why we have the conscious mind and we have the unconscious mind. Think of your conscious mind kind of like the top of the iceberg, and the unconscious mind like the bottom of the iceberg. And most people are driven by, all of us are driven by our unconscious mind. That's why, have you noticed anybody in your life where it's just like the same stuff keeps happening to them, and it's like they have like an unlucky cloud above their head, and you just kind of like, wow, it's fascinating. Or it's like, your angry relative is like always angry, or your sad relative is always sad. And then you have this happy friend that is just always happy. Why is that? And the angry friend like always has a story of why they're angry. And the sad friend always has a story why they're like, there's a justification, and they have like legit, really good examples that if you were in their lives and you're watching it like a movie, you could understand why they're angry or sad or happy, right? Well, a lot of that has to do with what has happened in our childhood. Yes, it always goes back to our childhood. And so if I were to put the power of meditation and what it does, and by the way, this is like the best sales copy for why we need to meditate, and it's going to really make you a master at being able to inspire your clients on meditation. Because if you're not influencing and inspiring your clients on meditating, and you call yourself a coach, and you're not inspiring your clients on meditating, you're not asking them if they're meditating, then that's like Mrs. Fields not asking me if I'm practicing playing the piano. We can't transform unless we slow down and go inside. Because remember, change happens within. It doesn't happen without, it happens within. Remember, if I can't brush the mirror and expect my hair to change, I need to brush my head. So it's like people want their lives to change. We want the benefits of transformation, but no one usually wants to do, very few, I should say. Very few people want to actually do the work. And part of the work is that slowing down and that meditation practice. And this is, I just got to say, this is like the best one. Okay, so let me share with you one story that hopefully will inspire and move you if you aren't yet in some sort of meditation practice. Or maybe, I know for me, I started and stopped and started and stopped, and there's no shame in that. The egoic mind, you know why the mind has so much resistance to meditation? It's because the ego hates the present moment. It hates it. The ego wants to just like beat you up about the past. Have you ever said something or done something in the past? I know I have. Or I could be like, why did I say that? Oh my God. Or why didn't I do this? Or why didn't I do that? Why didn't I invest in Apple? Whatever it is, right? Or worry about the future. Gosh, oh man, I'm getting older. Oh no, is this gonna happen? And worry about the future, right? That's what the egoic mind loves to do. But that's not who we really are. And that's not why we're here. So we need to acknowledge that we all have that. That's part of being human. But if we let that monkey mind, that egoic mind, if we let that rule us, then whoa, that's a crappy life. And then we really are a victim of our mind. We're a victim of the world, and we're just going to let the world run us. And that's when we live a life of a lot of suffering. That's most people. So how we liberate us, and how we become free, and how we actually have a shot at joy, and a shot at happiness, and a shot at love, and a shot at passion, and a shot at feeling like, whoo, this is who I am, and this is why I'm here. Hallelujah, is we've got to slow down and we got to go inside. So this is why finding your meditation practice daily, every day. It's like I brush these teeth. You brush your teeth. I put on some deodorant so I don't stink. You do that. Well, I don't do that. I don't wash this every day, but I do wash this body every day. You do that? So it's just about slowing down and going inside. So what this has done for me is it really has helped me become more conscious and aware of what I really need and who I am. So let me give you an example. Something that I was in deep denial of was my marriage. I'm not going to go into detail, but I still love my ex-husband. He's a wonderful man, wonderful man. He didn't do anything wrong. That's what made it actually really hard. If he was like this bad guy and he was like awful, it'd actually make it easier in a way, but he wasn't. He wasn't. That's actually what made it even more painful. I loved him very much. I still do. What I realize is that when him and I married, I didn't really know who I was. And I started to get to know who I really was. In fact, one of our last hard conversations is he acknowledged that I had changed. And what really happened is I became more of who I really am. And we ended up separating and we ended up divorcing, not because we didn't love each other. We love each other still very much, but because we weren't compatible. And had I not become aware, had I not slowed down and really got honest, I would have continued on. I was getting severe migraines. So I've suffered from migraines since I was 11 years old. And part of what has helped me on this path, I got to give credit where credit is due. You'll hear me talk a lot about him. One of my mentors, Dr. Gabor Mate. And actually, Dr. Gabor Mate recommended this book, by the way. So you can thank him. Dr. Gabor Mate, he wrote the book, When the Body Says No. And he talked about how people who have a chronic illness like myself I don't have it anymore, thank goodness. I could go back to it if I fell back asleep, if I fell back unconscious, but I won't. Heck no. No way. This is too much. This feels too good. Are you kidding? So I studied Dr. Mate's work, When the Body Says No, and I discovered that I was suppressing who I really am. It wasn't an easy journey, but there's no way, it would have been impossible. There's no way that I would have been able to start uncovering the layers if I had not taken the time to slow down and go inside. And the same thing is true for you, and the same thing is true for your clients. We can't inspire and lead our clients if we're not practicing it, right? So I can't wait to hear about what meditation practice you do. Now, if you do this, he even talks about like, don't do it. He's so cute. I love Michael Brown. He talks about like, don't do this for someone else. Don't try and show off with this, like, and everything. So he talks about how this is a self-study and like, don't do this for the wrong reasons. Do this for yourself. And I just want to say that if you end up doing it and you end up completing it, then I do, as your friend, I want to know, did you do the presence process? I think, hey, if you do the presence process and you complete it after 10 weeks, I want to give you a high five. I want to know you, because everyone who I know who's completed the presence process, their life has radically transformed. Radically. Not just like a little bit, but radically. I'm not exaggerating. That is part one of TREEPOSE, is meditation. There needs to be some sort of meditation practice. So every day, a deliberate, conscious, slowing down, stillness, and focusing on your breath. That's it. Even if you do 5 minutes, that's a start. That's beautiful. If you weren't doing any and now you're doing 5 minutes, Dr. Daniel, I'll end on this note. Dr. Daniel Amen, he does the brain scans. He has a whole Amen clinic. He did a whole TED talk about studying the brain, and it's really brilliant what he's created with his Amen clinics and studying the brain. And he did this really fascinating experiment where he took people's brain scans, and he took someone's brain scan and he had them meditate just for 5 minutes a day for 30 days. And that's it. They didn't add any supplements. They didn't do any medication. They didn't do anything else, change anything else in their life. All they did was they added a daily 5-minute meditation. And you know what he discovered? So cool, so fascinating. A significant decrease in the brain activity for anxiety. Significant. So isn't that interesting? We hear about it, but I don't believe it's talked about enough. I don't believe it's encouraged enough. So I want to encourage you and support you and celebrate with you to really consciously and deliberately develop a meditation practice. Let me know. Let me know what you end up doing. Let me know what you decide doing. I want to cheer you on. Thank you for being here. Remember, Strawberry Shift is all about following your heart, listening to your heart and following your heart. It takes courage. That's why I love the lion. It takes courage. All right. Take care, my friend.